Hello, this is X, aka Sebastian for PokerVIP. And today I'm back with my third part of my 4-part series on Guts Poker, which is a part of microgaming. And yeah, I did talk about the specifics of like the poker side and microgaming in the prior parts, so check them out if you want to have more information on those type of things. Else, let's jump right into the action and get some strat talk going. So this time I'm not going to play 3 anonymous tables. I'm going to play basically one table of the regular variety. Just kind of to also show that as well, get that into the mix. As a little side note, it's about like 1 AM here in Germany, or rather in the most parts of Europe, and there are still like a reasonable amount of tables running, like about 10 tables at 20 NL, so definitely okay action. So yeah, so can't really complain in those terms. Also, this table seems rather like weakish. So far, like at least 2 recreationals. I already spotted 2 recreationals within like the 1 or 2 orbits I've played, which overall pretty good for us, of course. Pocket 9's gonna more than likely see a flop. Excuse me while I play around with my T a bit. This is close. So for example, this is a hand I would expect to be a defend in a vacuum in theory. I think in practice it gets too submerged by rake versus a 3x cutoff open, so I'm just gonna fold. Whereas 2.5 I would still defend, and I do think even for 3x it's still kind of close, but I'm just gonna showcase that you can definitely put something into your folding range just because of rake. Hand that kinda appears like a defend, but I don't think it's doing good enough. But I do think it's close, and it's not unreasonable to defend that hand in that spot versus the 3x cutoff open. Right here I'm gonna check back my gutter and pair. Hopefully he doesn't lead turn. Hopefully we just get to see a safe showdown. That's half pot. I don't think I want to peel here with this weak of a gutter and a pair. If I had 10-9 suited, for example, I would definitely peel. It makes a pretty big difference whether you have pocket 9s or 10-9 here in terms of like you just have more equity. And you have a bit of a better holding and you block a bit more relevant things. So, or even at like 8-9 I would rather defend than pocket 9s, while 8-9 is worse than 9s in terms of like actual hand strength. The blocker value of 8-9 is better, and it just has more outs, right? Because if you have 8-9, you can improve to like trips, 2-pair, while the 2-pair is pretty tainted there, and the gut shot. With pocket 9s, you can only improve to your 2 outs and the gut shot, so you don't have the extra 2-pair outs. Right here on this texture, we could argue for a 1/3 bet. Certainly okay. A bunch of backdoors, a bunch of barrel cards. This is definitely not a barrel card. This is definitely a check back. Hope to hit top pair and then win. And we don't. But we have some non-zero amount of showdown value. Would be a sick hero call. I'm tempted to hero call him. Is this just flat out spew? I mean, this is obviously not a call in theory, but I'm just contemplating. There's like once I won 30, he has so many. The problem is that he sometimes like bluffs with a king high, so we only chop with that, and then he occasionally bluffs an ace high, and that would be outrageously bad for us. I'm just gonna fold. I would probably hero call here a lot with ace highs though, because then we beat the king highs, we don't block the king highs, and if he ever shows up with like a ace high bluff, we at least chop and not lose. Don't think it's a big concern there that he bluffs ace high, but it's still a thing. Take a sip of my tea. Excuse me. As said, always trying to stay hydrated. Also, throat kind of gets dry by talking a lot. Yeah. So On the reg tables we can actually now check the hand histories to check what they had. So yeah, obviously like it would be a bit of a funky play to call there with the king high. I do think it makes sense. I do think he leads all his bluffs on the river. I do think his sizing kind of fits a bluff leading range. So I do think we certainly sometimes fold the best hand here. I mean 7-8 misses, 7-6 misses, Queen 10 misses, Queen 8 misses. We barely block those. King 10 misses, King Queen misses. We do block those. And some other random floats miss. And he really doesn't rep that much for value besides, I guess, a jack. I don't think a 9 leads that big though. So, I mean, yeah. Maybe I should have just bluff catched for the lulz. Would be amazing if we are right there, right? If I had ace-6 suited, I would have definitely called, for what it's worth. We're gonna call here. Generally, if you see those min opens, those, like, besides if they are button, that generally means that they are recreational players. Yes, it's not like a guaranteed they are recreationals, but min opens, usually people are more inclined to be of the recreational variety. We're gonna definitely see another street here with our relatively strong hand versus a perceived recreational. Could be doing all sorts of weird things. So we do block a lot of his bluffs in terms of 10 to 10. We just win. That's not too shabby. Not shabby at all. So in the limp pot, I'm definitely gonna just step the turn here for protection and value with my reasonable pair. With the pocket tens, I'm definitely gonna see it for about around half pot here. Versus the BB range, where I gain a lot from protection and can get some reasonable value. On the king turn, pretty easy check. Gonna hope to just check down and win. If he happens to bluff me off my hand, nice hand. Definitely gonna happen a reasonable percentage of the time. He just snap checks. The ace is not the worst river, but also not the best. Yeah, just going to check. Considering to check raise bluff, but we just chop. Reasonable result. And that's like kind of what I expect. His middle pairs to not go crazy in terms of bluffing, so we just check down and win versus those. Could open the jack 7 off, but readless I really don't want to open that junky hand. If I had a read that they're like overfolding and like too passive, I think it's fine. So he posts his blind. So we're gonna punish him in some form and variety. And this time it's gonna be by 3-betting him. Get punished, my friend, and he calls, and we get a pretty favorable flop. Overall, this is definitely a top tier flop. Let me fix my mic for a second. He leads on this texture for small. We could raise, we could just call in to go and take a turn. I just think we take a turn, getting like perfect odds to improve. Pretty bad turn overall. Do think he certainly has some jack X's in range. Hopefully he doesn't pot it or something. That would be annoying. Hopefully he bets smaller checks. Bets tiny. Okay, we could be doing that, but I don't think that's the case that often. Overcuts definitely sometimes an out. Just gonna call. Getting those odds. Pretty good river overall. Hopefully he doesn't pot it because that would suck. He just checks. So there's a bit of a polar spot. So he seems like, just by his line and his like sizes, he seems like recreational. So I'm gonna tend to bet bigger versus him. Yeah, just gonna bet 4-7-8 here, trying to get called by like a ace 10, ace queen, or like a jack X. So jack X never folds, obviously. Questionable whether ace 10 and ace queen call, but I do think they probably call. If he check raises, that's like annoying, and we probably have to fold. He just folds, which usually just means he had like 10-9. That's my guess here. 10-9 there. 10-9 suited. On this turn, he bets half pot. This is close with the 8s. I mean, 8s with a diamond, definitely a call. 8s without a diamond, I do think it's just a fold. Even versus recreational leading here. Just too low equity versus range overall, and like especially because that can happen, you can actually just get counterfeited there. That's always pretty annoying if you could get counterfeit. So yeah, pretty happy about the fold there. Right here on the texture we do want to check a lot. He's a recreational though, so it doesn't matter as much. I still think our hand perfectly plays as a check back. 3x UTG open, or yeah, also effectively UTG, pretty easy fold. Pretty easy call. Pretty easy river, just call I think. If he bets tiny I raise, but besides that I just flat. He bets pretty big, we call. He has ace 5 offsuited. So yeah, on this river, I mean, we obviously have a pretty strong hand. Like we could consider to raise, but once he bets big, he obviously could have a higher straight sum percentage of the time. And I mean, we're just really going to increase rake versus another 7 because I don't think we really get called by anything besides the 7. And occasionally we have the super dick down cooler. And if that's the case, we just want to flat to lose the minimum. I mean, he just has ace 5 off, you know. That hand is not going to do anything, more than likely, once we raise. Sorry. Just got out of the shower. Get my hair out of my face. Getting a bit long, my hair. Hair game not really on point. Have to improve the hair game a bit. Yeah. 3-9 suited, kinda can only defend versus a min open. Hopefully he limps or min opens. There you go. So this table is pretty sweet. One recreation, and one fish. So far, seems pretty good. Easy half pot bet. Definitely getting off some hands here, some of the time. He check raises me. 7-9 versus a min could be a call here, but I think I only like to just fold it. So what do we have here? We have the 3, 4, 5, so like the bottom end of the open ender. It's like any deuce, any 7, and on the 7 we also get a redirect with the back door. We just have far more better hands here to call. That would have been a cool turn. Obviously. Oh, this is the... Oh wow, this is the god seat at this table. Holy shit. I really want to play a lot of hands, but I don't think I necessarily want to call here for 2.5x with the ace 7. Right here, one c-betting or checking are fine. I'm going to c-bet a 40%. Oh, just kidding. It wouldn't be outrageous to flat here pre, just due to the nature of him being a fish and him being a recreational with the ace 7 there. And if he would have min opened, I would have definitely called. But versus 2.5x, I decided to just throw it into the bin. Drinking my tea. Some green tea to stay fresh and get some energy into my system. So I was talking about a few cool little things you can do to make your grinding experience smoother. Another tip I wanted to promote here is using hotkeys, which I'm not using right now on the site. But generally, if you have the option that you can use hotkeys, you definitely want to go ahead and do so. It just hires your volume, like more hands per hour. It's really not that hard to get used to. Like, it might take you a bit to get used to it. It's got 130 here. But overall, it's really not that hard to get used to. And just gonna see bet here with like the nut gutter and reasonable blockers. And yeah. Here we're just gonna check down, hope to beat ace high or like ace deuce. Do think that's relatively possible. So yeah. That's definitely. And another little thing I want to promote here is using a program called Flux, which basically makes your... We're gonna go for a 3-bet versus the recreational here. Which basically makes your whole screens look not as bright. Because it's really painful for the eyes to look into like the bright and shining monitors for like hours and hours. So yeah, the program Flux really helped me in those terms of kinda preserving my eyelight as best as possible. Just gonna see what half pot you're gonna... Actually I can size up versus a fish, right? Yeah, this is like a texture I expect a ton of calls by him, ton of pair slow scatters. I don't expect him to ever fold a 10 basically. So we're just gonna bet 69. And if he has nothing, he has nothing, you know. And I think this is just a pretty dynamic texture. Even though there's no flush draw, I do think it's still really dynamic. Right here, I don't really think we achieve a lot by isolating, besides bloating a pot, being out of position to the initial limper with a hand that's really not gonna flop that good that often. While I say that, we just flop chips. But realistically, it's really not a spot we're gonna extract massive amounts of value usually. Like maybe we stack this guy occasionally. With the pocket sixes, I'm gonna flat here in the button. Ultimate position versus all. Even though it's 3x and I'm not thrilled. So here we just bet now, try to get paid by a jack. Basically, that's kind of the whole story. Of course, there's some other hands that might call us down. And we have a pretty damn good hand. Good river would be a jack. Probably gonna pot it on a jack. Good river would also be the 3 of hearts. Or the ace. Deuce of hearts. Well, I don't think we're necessarily beat that often, even though jack x of hearts and some hearts are a thing. Yeah, basically versus the limper, I'm just gonna bet. Hope to get paid by a jack. Honestly, I'm also just not gonna bet that small. I'm just gonna bet relatively big. I don't think a jack or like queens, if you ever limp that, folds. You're gonna 1/3 for like the reasons we kind of do that a lot. Protection value, wide range by him. Definitely gaining a lot by doing this versus a BB. Get raised on a river, pretty straightforward fold. By the way, getting raised here still doesn't mean we shouldn't have bet, right? Because if we like elect to check call instead, let's say, we still, like if he has a flush, we still lose the same amount. Or like even more because he might just bet bigger. And yeah, we give him a chance to bluff, but realistically, what hand is ever gonna bluff there? Yeah, queen 10 and king queen? No, I think those are just gonna check down because they have still a relatively good holding, like for example king queen, no pair nuts, so don't think those hands are bluffing a lot there, so I don't think we're going to induce a lot. Plus I do think those hands generally just always see what the flop at anyways, right? So I don't think he has those a lot. And I do think there's certainly value to be gained, right? So as a general rule of thumb, I'm usually more tempted to bet myself than to check, because generally bluff frequencies are pretty low and people are generally pretty stationary, so you're pretty inclined to just bet. And then if you get raised, you just have a pretty easy fold. I mean, it's not really close there. Just usually has the flush, or like, I don't know, ace jack that limped and flopped the super boat. Something like that. So the min open can't really defend this junky hand. Queen jack suited, gonna play this in some form and variety, more than likely. Same with the king queen of hearts. Top right table, easy open. Top left table, gonna 3-bet him. And I'm gonna squeeze if someone overcalls. Relatively good hand to do so. Well, I'm not gonna really cold 4-bet, will I? I mean, I could, but it's like... versus a recreational here. I just don't think I have enough fold equity versus a recreational to see it. Don't think he folds ace high almost ever. So we're just gonna check and hope to see a free turn. Hope to ping to king, queen, or heart. I do think it still checks through a reasonable percentage of the time. Just don't think we have enough fold equity versus a recreational there. And generally it's a pretty marginal c-bet to begin with. Yeah, you have a backdoor flush, and yeah, you have 2 overs, but it's really not that amazing, is it? So this guy suddenly decides to open for 4x while he min opened before, and just some funky things going on. Ace 8 versus the recreational, letting this be pretty easy 1/3 c-bet, or roughly around 1/3, actually a bit more. Still a pretty good hand. Obviously sometimes cutting myself here, but usually, yeah, jack raises me. Well, we're not gonna fold trips just now, but we're gonna probably end up folding somewhere along the line. Well, never mind. So right here, turning the flush draw, I'm just gonna step. It's 2 recreationals. I don't think they fold enough. I really don't have that much equity. I mean, it's fine. Okay, let's step at the pot. I mean, we still have a reasonable amount of equity here to improve on. We miss it and we're just gonna give up. No reason to bluff into the push. Don't think he folds a lot at this point. Sure, if he has king jack with the king of hearts, it's a bit sad and we're gonna cry. He has jack 9 with the heart. I don't think that then folds over. Pretty loosey-goosey overcall by him. So right here we're just gonna call once he pots. This kind of seems outrageous. Because we want to let him bluff, we want to give him rope. Sure, there's some annoying rivers, but not a whole lot. That's really not that scary because I think ace king kind of c-bets every time. And if he has queen jack now, which certainly might be possible, I'm gonna get a stack. And I don't think he still doesn't fold. I mean, if he has tens, he goes broke, obviously. For min, and if he has ace queen ace jack, I still don't think he folds. So still pretty mandatory shove here. So for min, I do think the sand gets really submerged by rake, but versus a fish for min versus a cutoff open, I think I'm gonna press the call button, even though I don't think it's outrageous to fold the sand. But give fish read, give min. We're gonna play. Here we're gonna go all in, hope to not run into ace 10. What can you really do? Trying pretty slim on that flop. Yeah, not a whole lot we can do there, for sure. I mean, c-bet is standard. I mean, in those type of spots I just go through that hand in my head and just kinda evaluate whether I could have done something. So, not opening pre is not an option, you definitely open that hand. Not c-betting flop is kind of not an option, I think. You definitely c-bet that strong of a hand. Folding versus his flop check raise. Now here it begins. I mean, do you really want to fold that hand? I don't know. I'm not thrilled to call, but he made it pretty small if I recall correctly, and yeah, it's just no real way I can fold, because even if he happens to have a hand like ace jack, we just have like chop equity, we can improve and so on. Yes, in this case we were drawing like that. But, I mean, first of all, I'm really not expecting him to check raise that hand a ton of the time. I do think with like something like top board, people generally are pretty inclined to just slow play it. On such a dry texture as well. So yeah, and I mean, once the turn hits, we're just gonna get our money in. Also, yeah, I think the king is rather a good card on the river, in the sense that I don't think he really has ace king, but I do think he sometimes has queen jack, which always pays us. So yeah, overall pretty standard hand. Obviously not really fun to run into the dig down boat over boat there, but it happens. Ace king suited, maybe we can win some back now. He also pots that turn. I mean, he's basically saying, you have an ace, you don't fold, which isn't true. I'm folding a reasonable one of my ace X's. I mean, not on the turn necessarily. I mean, on the turn I might fold in like ace deuce through ace 7, let's say. So the really chunky ace X's. I might fold them on the turn. I'm not gonna fold my ace jack through ace queens, but I'm gonna fold them on the river. Even though he bet rather smallish, I still think I fold those hands on the river. He leads this texture. Pretty annoying, but what can you do? Just gonna fold, man. I mean, it's even a texture, it's not that outrageous to lead on. Yeah, so by the river we probably can make an argument to fold our ace jacks, maybe. And I don't think we can really fold ace queen for like his half board bet though. Maybe we can. We can definitely fold a really junky ace deuce through ace nines somewhere along the line. Like at least on the river we can fold the ace deuce through ace nines. Really don't have to call down every ace there. Versus such a nutted line. But the ace, yeah, maybe we can fold the ace jacks and call the ace queens or something. And yeah, the ace 8 is just a trivial get it in still. It's also not really close. Especially because we beat the pocket tens. That's a pretty big factor there. Beating like part of his boat range there is like... Right. I mean, first of all, he's also like more likely to have pocket tens than ace 10. Just because I don't think he flats ace 10 off there a lot. So he probably only has the suited combos, which is just one combination. which he happened to have. And even if he has like the offsuited ones, that's like what? 3 times 1, so that's like 3 combinations overall. And there are 3 combinations of 10s. Plus, like, given what I just said, that like he's more likely to not have the offsuited ones, I do think he usually has more 10s than ace 10 there. So, yeah. And those obviously never bet fold river, those always get it in. And there's obviously a chance he has ace jack, ace queen, which is just bad call river because it's like essentially a min raise left. Plus, there's a chance he sometimes happens to have the. I don't think I can fold my pair. I mean, I do think he has an 8 here really often. I don't think I want to fold my pair if it goes check down. Yeah, it just has the 8. I mean, it's a limp pot and he just checks down. He could have like a ton of hands we beat, which all might mean step to river. We only need to be good there a small percentage of the time. So yeah. And I mean, yes, he quite often has an 8 there. And we could have stepped the turn for protection and value, but given that we had the king of hearts, I just didn't thought it was that necessary. I mean, his hand is still drawing pretty slim versus us. But stepping turn is not outrageous, and folding river is probably also not that outrageous. Do think he has the 8 there pretty often. Does he have it like... Yeah. It's kind of hard to fold a pair in a limp pot once it goes check down because his range is massively wide and it's like massively hard for him to not bluff enough. Because he just has so many combinations there that just can bluff. So he limp calls. We're just gonna check our middle pair and go from there. On this turn, we have 2 options. We can check or bet. I think I want to check again, given that we have the diamonds. We're not that afraid of a diamond river. And pretty trivial river value, but don't think he folds a lot at this point. I mean, I do think he still folds a reasonable amount, but I think once he has like some sort of showdown value, like pocket 10s or something, he's not that likely to fold it. Yeah. The 8-10 we could open it. It's like pretty marginal. Yeah, really have to see the barbar, the bear. Cut my hair. Yeah. Anything else I can ramble about? Not necessarily. Generally, you want to bet fold a lot. Like, for example, if I wouldn't have turned the 8, right? If the turn was like a deuce rainbow with the ace 8. Once he pots turn, honest to God, we can probably just fold the trips there. Yeah, calling's not going to be outrageously bad. But I think there's like a pot and everything. We can fold a decent amount of our ace X's there. Might seem outrageous to some of you. I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. By the way, I think Holy Manager doesn't track the hands of Holy Manager as well, of microgaming. So that's kind of making it like hard to analyze and review hands later on. So you basically have to. I mean, as I said, I think if you reset your Holy Manager to like a old version, I'm not sure if you only see the HUD or if it also tracks the hands. As said, I haven't done it myself, but you can probably research that. Would be kind of cool if there's a way to track the hands. Okay, pretty easy defend for min, pretty easy call on the flop. Gonna see what the turn brings. Relatively dynamic card, definitely has some hands that barrel, even though we block some of them with the 9. Still could bet a worse ace some of the time. He just checks. We have 2 pair. Drop true. So I don't think he bluffs a lot. At the same time, I don't think he has a lot. let's just lead relatively big. Hope he somehow has 8-9 or like somehow has the ace that check back turn. Here we're gonna check back and realize our equity. I don't think on the queen we have a lot of fold equity, and I just want to freely realize my equity. Also don't want to risk the we do get called. Also don't want to run into the risk to get check raised. I actually do think we, on the 7 we actually don't have that much fold equity. Also, so we don't have a lot of showdown value, and also I don't think we have a lot of fold equity, so we're in a bit of a bad spot. We kind of blocked the hands we want him to have. I don't think this is just going to be a give up. We have a non-zero amount of showdown value, but it's really slim. And I don't think that end, for example, ever folds. So definitely saved some money in that. Yeah, in the ace-9 hand, by the way, he had jack-9 and just decided, well, I'm not gonna fold river with my river pair. And he wouldn't have bet, more than likely wouldn't have bet, so probably made a reasonable amount. Gonna 130 with mine. Blind on blind. On this turn, I don't think there's still enough value to bet my ace-9. We also have the backup of the flush, which doesn't like... Basically, it doesn't... I mean, it just gives us more equity with our hand versus range, and if we happen to get check raised, we can quite comfortably still check call. That's what it does, basically. It's not like I'm betting there because I have the flush draw. It's more like I'm betting there because I think, first of all, he has worse ace X's, and he has clubs which I can get value of. Those are the main reasons. Not because I have the flush draw, but the flush draw does give me some backups in terms of if we get raised, we can actually peel it. And yeah, we overall have more equity versus range. Certain parts of range just have less equity. So it pushes our equity versus range, which generally makes us more inclined to value bet. With the king high versus a fish, I'm just gonna check down. I don't think he ever folds a pair. And I do think I could win at showdown, but it's like really rare. Yeah, that hand is just not gonna fold anywhere. Probably not even if I triple barrel, let's be honest. I don't think that's really part of his folding range at all. So, money saved is money earned. I think with the king 10 there, with the king 10 of spades, you could make an argument to bluff river, but it's like, ugh. I basically don't think he ever folds a lot. And also, yeah, we can beat like 10-9 and jack 10. I could see him just giving up with those. Yeah, I think the give up is quite reasonable. Also, given our blockers weren't really that great to bluff there. Yeah. But it wouldn't be like an outrageous river bluff, I'd say. Because he certainly could fold some pairs and certainly has some ace-size that fold. So, yeah. The king 8s. Gonna open if it folds to me. If he limps, I probably overlimp. And if he opens, I kind of want to do something, but okay, opens to 4x, that makes it kind of easy. Always happy to have an easy decision. Never be the best spot to be in a tough decision. Always cool to be in a spot where you have an easy decision. The queen jack. I really want to play a hand versus the fish, but the queen jack is just so terrible to overcall here. It's such a bad overcall. The discipline. We really want to play pots versus him, but the queen jack is particularly not a good over flat here at all. It's really a shitty hand multi-way. It's pretty dominated, and yeah. If it was suited, definitely calling. Off suited, pretty junky. Pretty bad hand overall. Get squeezed here. Not a lot we can do versus it, honestly. Probably just, yeah, just gonna fold. Just gonna fold my hand. So yeah, we're approaching the 35-minute mark, so probably gonna wrap up the third part here somewhere soon. Hopefully gonna play the ace-10 spot here. Hopefully those guys come along. Not because Dan is great multi-way, but because those guys are fish. On this flop, if he bets 1/3, we peel. If he bets like 80, we fold. If he bets 60, I'm a bit tilted because I kind of want to peel, but bets more than 60, I fold. We could float here, but it's like really marginal, and yeah, just gonna pass on that marginal spot. Okay, this guy opens. This hand plays pretty well at like a shallow stack depth because, well, to make it simple, we either flop a pair or we don't. And this hand doesn't play that well deep stacked. But it certainly plays fine enough to call the 3x here. And that's a pretty bad flop. There's really nothing going on. Just gonna check fold and lose this pot 90% of the time or more. Sadly. Okay, yeah. I mean, as always, if you have any comments, any feedback, any questions about a certain hand I play, want to berate me for something, I don't know, just go ahead, write it into the comments, either on like PokerVIP or YouTube. I'm gonna check them both and reply to everything as good as I can. And yeah, hopefully you will be back for part 4. And hope you got some value out of it. Definitely got into some spots so far. Let's play this hand and then I'm gonna... actually, let's play until the next... Let's play until the next PB. Get in those last few hands. That's a relatively favorable flop. He will lead. No. We will bet. We will bet. That's not a good turn. That makes me sad. Actually, I'm gonna sit back in here while I wait for the other BBs. Because it's only a 300 game. Should get in an orbit while I wait for the other ones. Bet again. Hopefully some 2 pairs get stubborn. There are some ace-x of clubs that are gonna definitely call. So definitely can get some value. If we get raised here, realistically, we're gonna chop and be sad. He just folds, which... Okay. So he opens for 5x. Let's get out of the way. Where's the 5x open? Actually... Yeah. Oh, we can actually sit out here again. Because we actually reached the blinds, right? Okay. So yeah, as said, hopefully you will be back for part 4. Any questions, post them down below in the comments. Wait, where is it? Down below in the comments. And yeah, cheerio. Have a nice grind. Have a nice day. Bye bye.